YouTube Nation and Dog Pound. I'm Unger to the Max. A salute to you. Normally, on Thursday nights and Friday mornings, I send out a weekly newsletter going over what happened in the past week in the sports world. And that's what I've been doing ever since the SportsRoom started. But for this week, I decided I don't want to type out a newsletter and put pictures in. I want to do it as a video format. So that's what I'm going to do. So the NBA draft was last night, and I stayed up till around midnight watching it. Didn't make it through all 60 picks. I think I went to bed around 46th or 47th pick. The Cleveland Cavaliers, my hometown team, only made one pick last night. And that was number 3 overall when they took Evan Mobley, a center out of USC. Now, they already have a big man in Jared Allen on the roster, and we have a longtime veteran, Kevin Love, who is also a big man, but he's a power forward. Jared Allen is a center. So, with the selection of Evan Mobley, what does that mean for Kevin Love? What does it mean for Jared Allen? Most likely, it means the Cavaliers are going to trade Kevin Love at some point. But again, nothing is definitive. That's just speculation. So, today is the Major League Baseball Trade Deadline. So, it's kind of perfect that I'm filming this week's SportsRoom newsletter now. Because, again, it's the trade deadline, and several moves have already happened, way too many to mention. I'm just going to give you a couple notable ones. So we start with the New York Yankees. They made a trade with the Texas Rangers to acquire all-star outfielder Joey Gallo. And then they made a trade with the Chicago Cubs, where they acquired longtime first baseman and one of the guys who helped break the curse in 2016, first baseman Anthony Rizzo. Then you had the Los Angeles Dodgers. They went out and acquired a future Hall of Famer in starting pitcher Max Scherzer and a really good shortstop who's been to the All-Star game a couple times in Trey Turner. Scherzer and Trey Turner were both integral parts of the Washington Nationals winning their first World Series title in franchise history in 2019. That series, they won that series in 7 games over the Houston Astros. The number 7 will be heard again later in the video. But let's get to my hometown team, the Cleveland Indians. They announced that they are changing their name to the Cleveland Guardians next season. Now, their reasoning, for why they're changing the name to the Guardians is that near Progressive Field, there is a bridge, and it has these 2 statues on it, and those statues are called the Guardians. So that's their reason. My reasoning for why the Indians should have changed their name to the Guardians is a little bit different. So, Progressive Field and Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse are right next to each other. Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse is where the Cleveland Cavaliers play, as well as the Cleveland Monsters. The Cleveland Monsters are the minor league affiliate of the Columbus Blue Jackets in the NHL, National Hockey League. So, when I think of the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think of this. How they have a sword going through the middle of their logo. And whenever I think of swords, I think of knights in shining armor and defense and, defending the territory, defending the castle, that type of thing. So I thought that since the Indians and Cavaliers are neighbors, the Indians should choose a name that goes along with the Cavaliers. So Guardians made the most sense. So the Indians have an in-state rival. the Cincinnati Reds. But the Reds are not in the same division as the Indians. Cleveland is in the same division, is in the American League Central with the Chicago White Sox, Kansas City Royals, Detroit Tigers, and the Minnesota Twins. More on the Detroit Tigers and Minnesota Twins later. While the Reds are in the National League Central along with the Pittsburgh Pirates, Milwaukee Brewers, Chicago Cubs, and the St. Louis Cardinals. Joey Votto has been with the Cincinnati Reds since 2007. He's their first baseman. He set a franchise record for the Reds by hitting a home run in 6 consecutive games. Now that's pretty impressive because the Reds are one of the oldest teams in Major League Baseball. They've been around since at least the early 1900s. And then we get to the Minnesota Twins and the Detroit Tigers. They played a game earlier this week in Minnesota at Target Field. And the Twins hit 7 home runs. 7. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. While the Detroit Tigers hit 0. 0. So you would think with that big of a discrepancy, the Twins would have absolutely smashed the Tigers and run them out of the building, right? Wrong. Because the Tigers ended up winning that game 17-14. Sounds more like a football score to me. Sounded more like the Detroit Lions were playing the Minnesota Vikings. But the Twins became the first team in Major League Baseball history to out-homer their opponent by 7 and still lose. And it's the 5th time that, it's the 5th time in MLB history a team has hit 7 home runs and still lost. And then we had Texas and Oklahoma. So in last week's newsletter, I told you that there was a story last week where Texas and Oklahoma expressed that they wanted to leave the Big 12 and join the SEC. Well, the SEC unanimously voted to extend invitations to both Texas and Oklahoma. So presumably, the Sooners and Longhorns are going to accept and leave the Big 12. This is big because Texas and Oklahoma are 2 of the founding members of the Big 12 Conference. So I think the Big 12 is in serious trouble. As of right now, the Big 12 is part of something we call the Power 5. So the Power 5 is the Big 10, ACC, SEC, Pac-12, and the Big 12. Okay? Got it. So, UFC 265 is happening on August 7th from Houston, Texas. In the main event, it's going to be Derek Lewis fighting Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight title. So, what an interim title is that it's like a temporary title. Because the champion, Francis Ngannou, isn't ready to defend his belt for whatever reason. So, whoever wins this fight on August 7th between Lewis and Gane is going to become the interim champion, and then at some point, they'll fight Ngannou so that they can bring the 2 belts together, and we can have 1 champion. And then in the co-main event, it was supposed to be UFC bantamweight, which is 135 pounds, and featherweight, 145 pounds, champion Amanda Nunes, the consensus greatest female fighter of all time, defending her bantamweight title against Juliana Pena. However, that fight is now off because Nunes tested positive for COVID-19. So that fight is off, but it will be rescheduled for a different time. And then to finish off this week's newsletter, I just want to send my best wishes to Simone Biles because she decided to pull out of a lot of Olympic gymnastics events due to mental health issues. She said that she got the yips while doing part of her routine. Getting the yips is pretty much the equivalent to if you're an actor or an actress and having stage fright. It's that same type of thing. So it could be for a number of reasons that she's dealing with these mental health issues. So whatever it is, I hope Simone gets well soon, because she is arguably the greatest gymnast ever. Arguably. But then again, I can't really make an argument for anyone else. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Sports Room. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, I'm Unger to the Max, signing off with a salute to you.